welcome to the keynote address of our 5-day faculty development program on novel materials and it's in the future of it. I take great pleasure in welcoming Dr. Atindra Shukla. Atindra Shukla, who is a director of Shaw Shalman Center for Surface Science and Nanotechnology, Dharam Singh Desai University, Nadiad, Gujarat. So, sir is there, and I take privilege in reading out a few things about his his achievements, his credentials, and then, of course, I will leave the floor to him, or the screen to him, as we may say, for Dr. Shukla to take over. I request all the participants to mute yourselves, and you can, of course, at any point of the time, put anything on the chat box. All the question and answer session will come later on. Please note, speaker as well as all the participants, this is a 1 hour lecture. This is a 1 hour lecture. This is 9:45 to 10:45. Is a 1 hour lecture, and the last 30 minutes will be for question and answer session. When I say 1 hour, well, we can be a little elastic. So first of all, we are really happy and privileged to have Dr. Shukla to be delivering this keynote address. Dr. Shukla has earned his BSc degree in chemistry from South Gujarat University, Surat, and he has got his post-graduation MSc in organic chemistry from Bhavnagar University, Bhavnagar, India. And of course, and his PhD is, of course, on the synthesis and characterization and physiochemical studies of new redox active mono and binuclear complexes with donor acceptor properties. And this is from the Central Salt and Marine Chemical Research Institute. Apart from this, Dr. Shukla has also done 2 stints of postdoctoral, postdoctoral work. He was a postdoctoral fellow from January 2006 to April 2007 at University of Miami, Coral Gables, FL, with Professor Angel Kiefer in the Department of Chemistry. And then, of course, he also was a postdoctoral fellow from January 2003 to December 2005 at the Weizmann Institute of Science, Rehovot, Israel, with Professor Milko van der Boom in the Department of Organic Chemistry. Yes, of course, he comes with a rich experience, academic experience of 17 plus years, 8 years in academy. And right now he works as a director in charge of the Shaw Shalman Center of Surface Science. So I welcome you, Dr. Shukla. You can take over from me from now on. I request all the audience to mute yourself and please, see that there is no disturbance from your end to the speaker. Thank you. And Dr. Shukla, can you hear me? Can you take over?
Yes. Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Dr. Fanish, for a nice introduction. And thank you and your team for inviting me for this online FDP program as a keynote speaker. The topic of today's talk is Introduction to Novel Materials. We are already knowing that nowadays in this era there is a boom for nanomaterials, but here we will keep these things very broad, in broader perspective to the general materials. What we learn is what we see into materials. Where do materials come from? That is one of the question we find. How did they originate, or what is the origin of these materials? What distinguishes them, and how do they get destroyed, or whether they get destroyed or then they get converted to something else. So we know that the materials normally don't get destroyed. They change the form from one form to another form. Water, if you boil, it gets converted into vapor, but it is not getting destroyed. Yes, we will see the vessel containing water is empty, but then water gets converted into a vapor. So they change the form, but they then don't get destroyed. Where do they come from? There is a theory called Big Bang theory. It was a kind of hypothesis, but now there are many evidences to prove that it is a kind of reality, or it has happened. where matter got originated. So there was a big explosion in the space, in the galaxy, and then creation of lot of celestial bodies along with this matter or material took place. And in that, all those gases got condensed and lots of nuclear reactions took place to create those materials. So these materials, we know that basically there are three forms of material or three basic states of matter. If we don't count plasma as one of the basic form, then there are basic three forms of matter. One is solid, another is liquid, and third is gas. So we call it SGL. It is a kind of triangle. They get converted into each other for a single material. So there are, we know that solids are tightly packed, the liquid are little loose, molecules are little far apart, and in gases they are much more remotely packed. And so this is the how we know that the three basic materials: solid, liquid, gases. And there are, these are classical states of matter. Then fourth one is plasma. Most existing materials covered under these three basic categories. So how do they get distinguished from each other? So we know that there is a electronic structure, or we call it electronic configuration, which determines that the properties or physicochemical properties of material, and they distinguish the material. So inherently all materials are similar. They have a similar kind of structure. Say nucleus is there. In nucleus they have protons, neutrons, and in their periphery they have electrons. So number of electron varies, number of proton and neutron also varies. Accordingly, their electronic configuration is varying, and that is determining the physico-chemical properties of a particular material. And that is why I have put here a periodic table, which is very basic for all of the teachers who are participating, but it shows that these materials are divided into different type of subgroups as per their properties. So this periodic structure represents most of the pure elements. So now what we are talking about are pure elements. Not, we have not gone into the mixture of these things so far. So these are pure elements represented here in periodic table, and some of them are gases, some of them are metals, some of them are liquids in an original form. Some of them are non-metals. They are solid but not in metallic form. So these type of materials, if we divide into subcategories like solids, metals, another is non-metals. This is a very basic division. Not we are not going into very technical division, but it is a kind of very basic division of solids into metals and non-metals. Metals, if we mix more than two metals, they form alloys. And if we mix metals with non-metals, they form composites. And even non-metals, when they are mixed together, like say suppose two or three more inorganic salts are mixed, they form either kind of hybrid materials, or they can also be called composites. So say suppose I have a polymeric material and I add some other salt into it, or that becomes a composite. If I have a polymeric material and I add metal into it, or if I have a metal and I add non-metallic material into it, say I dope it with something, or I add a polymer matrix into a molten metal, all those give rise to composites. So what I have made stars in these three categories like alloys and composites, they are normally man-made or compounds. They are not naturally occurring. Most of the other things which we have shown in the periodic table, they are naturally occurring. They are existing. But these are made, these are synthesized, prepared with special purpose or with special functionality in mind. So these alloys, these composites from metals and non-metals, or composites of only non-metals, these are designed materials. And this is where the main research of new age novel materials is taking place. So what we were, because whole this FTP is about novel materials, and as Dr. Furnish had mentioned that the some of the speakers
Sir, you unmute, sir. Sir, it's not audible.
Dr. Shukla? Dr.
Yeah.
Shukla? Dr. Shukla is not audible. The speaker is not audible. Dr. Shukla?
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, for half a minute or so, you are not audible, sir.
Okay. Okay.
You can go back.
Should I go back to one more?
Yes, yes, one slide.
Yeah. So yes, what we were talking about, that periodic table was a set of pure elements, which are most of them are naturally occurring. Some of them are made, but they are still a pure element. They are not mixture of something. But when we talk about solids, and then we subdivide them into mixtures, like then there will be metals and non-metals. These are subdivisions, and then metals can be mixed, two or more metals can be mixed to form alloys. Similarly, metals and non-metals can be mixed to form composites, as well as two or more non-metals can be mixed to create a hybrid materials or a composites again. So these type of materials, which are denoted by stars in this slide, particularly alloys and these composites, they are man-made materials. So they are made specially designed by certain efforts for a certain kind of purpose or certain kind of functional. So these materials are called, these are new age novel materials where research is taking place. So there is a research going on in creating new alloys where you have a different set of two or more metals to achieve certain kind of applications. Similarly, there is a very huge research going on in designing and creating composites, especially metals, non-metals based, or it's a mixture of metals and non-metals, or even non-metals based composites like a salt mixed with polymers or those kind of things, or carbon nanomaterials added into polymers and all. So these kind of composites have a specific applications. They are more robust in some cases than even metals. So metals are known to be a very hard, robust, solid, conductive materials, but people have created composites which overcome or which surpass the metals in certain properties. So those type of things are being researched now. So these are constitute a novel, new age novel materials class. Now we move to liquids. When two liquids are mixed, there are two scenarios when they are mixed. Many times they are miscible, so they create a kind of solution which is homogeneous, not distinguished. Hello.
बहुत सुंदर हैं, ठीक है?
So we cannot distinguish liquids from the.
होते हैं, कर दो, चलो होते हैं.
Yeah. So we cannot distinguish two liquids from the when they are miscible. So they form solutions and homogeneous solutions. But in some of cases, when vehicles are not, when liquids are not miscible, they create a kind of emulsions, or kind of two phases got separated. And when you want try to mix those phases, they will not get easily mixed, but you have to make efforts. You have to give them energy. You have to provide them the surfactants, which or surface active agents, which will create a kind of emulsion out of these two liquids. And that is why these emulsions are very special materials. They are also not most of the time naturally occurring. Some of the examples are there of emulsions which are naturally occurring, but most of the times emulsions are made, emulsions are designed, and they have a special purpose for it. Their applications are there. So these emulsions are made most of the time where those who are doing research in surface chemistry or surface active materials, they use the term called water in oil or oil in water emulsion. So most of the drugs which we are now getting, they are suspensions or emulsions nowadays. They are mixed into water to make it aqueous friendly or water friendly phase, but then they have to be mixed. So most of the drugs which are oily of nature and organic of nature, they are not easily miscible with water. They can be made into form of emulsions. And then so these emulsions are new age material again. Mixtures and solutions are known. We know that two liquids can be mixed and they have a homogeneous mixing, and they are solutions. So in case of gases, I have not shown gases here, but gases are generally miscible in each other, very difficult to separate them. They generally gives rise to homogeneous mixture, but in some cases density difference is there in gases. So there could be a little bit of separation, but it is not very observable. So in most of the cases, gases, gas to gas mixtures are not going to give rise to some kind of heterogeneous mixtures. So another scenario is solids plus liquid. So these are again, there are two possibilities, main two possibilities. If solid gets mixed into liquids, then it forms solution. Like we know that if you dissolve sodium chloride or salt into in a glass of water, it will make a clear solution. That is solution. But there are certain solids which are not mixed or miscible into liquid. They form two, three things. One is suspension. Another is colloidal suspension. If the particle size is too small and it forms a kind of a very stable networked situation, it is called colloidal suspension. And similar kind of case is the gels, where solid is in a continuous matrix and the liquid gets trapped into that. So those examples are like silica gel, hydrogels, or organogels. These are very special materials, have a very special applications. Hydrogels are nowadays, we might have seen that small colored balls which are used for decoration purposes. These are methyl methacrylate hydrogel balls. If you add into water, they will absorb a very large amount of water. So normally these hydrogels absorb around 900 to 1000 times more water to their weight, and then they get swollen up. And they have a certain type of applications, these hydrogels. And similarly, when the materials which absorb organic solvents, they form organogels. So these type of materials are being researched, or these are novel new age materials which we are talking about. Yes, when the scenario is solids plus gases, again, when solids are mixed into gases, it is a solution, we call it, but it is very rare. But most of the time when solids are dispersed into gases, we find two scenario. One is suspensions, colloidal suspension. Colloidal suspensions are kind of styrofoam, which we see that air is into voids of the solid continuous matrix, and suspensions are aerosols or sprays, mist, fog, all those things. In case of liquids plus gases, also similar scenario occurs. Mostly we find suspensions where aerosol or mist and spray and dissolve, and colloidal suspensions form kind of whipped cream or foam. Like we have a shave gel, if you brush it properly, like it is given a form of energy, it will form a foam. So that foam is a kind of colloidal suspension of liquid or gas into a liquid. So those type of situations, these foams and all are having not only this, they have a very good surface coverage. So that is why when shaving cream is applied, it is getting converted into foam. it covers the surface really well, it smoothens well. So it has a purpose, it has a function to perform, and that is why these materials are made. So that is why research is being done on creating aerosol or creating mist or creating colloidal suspension. There is a Africa-based company, they are doing research on mist-based fire extinguishers. So they convert mist of water. This is a micro droplet size mist, or even they range into nano domain of droplets, and very less water is required, and yet it does the extinguishing very effectively. So those type of technologies, yes, they are not using some chemicals to do that. They mostly they use a mechanical operation, very tiny nozzle with very high pressure, they create a mist. But this mist creation, mist is a kind of function which we can utilize for various applications. So those are these applications of these new age materials. So now we go to basic, the matter constitute of solid, liquid, and gas. Now we have mixtures with variable composition by physical methods, or we have a set of pure substances. There is not variable composition but constant compositions. There you can see the elements as well as compounds. Compounds also, like we have a mixture of 2 or 3 molecules, they create a compounds. They can also contribute towards novel materials, but on the left hand side what we see, the heterogeneous mixtures and homogeneous mixtures, they contribute to novel materials because of creation of interfaces and surfaces. Because when there is a heterogeneity, or when there is a 2 or more different type of matter or materials get mixed, there is a creation of interfaces or surfaces in those materials, and they gives rise to a different type of properties. So when there is a discontinuity between material phases, you see the interfaces like solid air or solid gas, solid liquid, solid interface also, liquid air or liquid gas interface, liquid interface, as I said, that when liquids are not miscible, and liquid solid interface. So all these molecules or colloids or particles have their surfaces, and then those surfaces have a surface free energies, surface charges, and they contribute towards the property of these materials. When you try to tune these interfacial properties or surface properties such as surface charges, surface free energies, using the knowledge of, say, molecular structure or some kind of physical intervention, you introduce certain type of functional groups which can channelize or conduct the charges and all, we can design novel materials with desired functionalities. So knowing the material at molecular level and then tuning this type of the properties, these becomes tools for creation of new materials. So basically we have classified materials by following main approach was the classical type, which was solid, gas, liquid. Another approach could be based on function or application type, what kind of application you want to create. Physicist approach would be, or material scientist would be classifying materials mostly based on properties, like what type of properties they have, dielectric property based, or conduction property based, like semiconductor, insulator, conductor, or those type. So physicists and material scientists focus on properties. Again, like basic classification is already there. Then many times what interdisciplinary science or interdisciplinary domain suggests that mostly materials classified based on application or function. Another classification is based on size. Many times, like a macro material or macromolecular size materials, then nano size materials, so nanomaterials. All these are classification basically, but we will go for a based on application type of classification or division of materials. And the classical approach uses, say, as I gave example of, say, atom is there, then you form a molecule, then insulator is there, silica, then if it is coordinated, then it is a semiconductor. You dope it with certain type of dopant, then we create a kind of doped semiconductor which will alter its property. Then if it is a metal with a readily available electron in the conductance band, it will become conductor. So this type of electronic structure determines the property of material and their division into different types of classes. Similarly, size-based classification gives like you have a bulk material, we have a macro materials, many macro materials like porous materials or thin films, and we have a nanomaterials like metal nanoparticles or metal oxide nanoparticles, carbon nanomaterials, self-assembled nanomaterials which are soft, they designed by self-assembly of molecules, or like vesicles or micelles and all. And then we have a nano coatings. These are like thin films on the surface, but they are of a very less thickness of a nanometer size. So this type of classification is also possible for materials. Now when we go for a function based or application based classification of nanomaterials, sorry, novel materials, there are several areas. I tried to cover most of them. Some of them still could be missed, but it is a very vast application area for materials. So novel materials are actually driving current research. So you can see, say, from biotechnology, transportation, national security and defense, where defense related products and all are being designed. Food and agriculture. Another very huge area is medicine and health or healthcare. And you have aerospace, energy and environment. This is also getting very high thrust nowadays. Another is advanced materials and textiles, which covers fibers, nanofibers, blended polymeric materials, and certain catalysts and all, porous materials, adsorbents, all these come into that. Information and technology, where you have a specific materials for signaling or transporters, receivers, all those things. And mechanical engineering and robotics, which is dealing with machines, lubrications, tribology and all. So this type of area based classification or area based division is so for a non-material scientist to or to learn about materials can go through these areas and decide the materials, learn about the materials. One area I chose is, like, say, transportation. So there are 3-4 applications of materials where the research is going on, or novel materials are being proposed and being designed. One is lubrication, another is fuel and fuel additives, because transportation depends on fuel. But these are two hot areas. Another additional or accessories areas are packaging, safety and security, signaling, sensing, communication, because nowadays transportation also requires continuous communication. You track your transported material. So lots of research is being done, and these three blue indicated areas require a contribution from different fields, while lubrication and fuel additives are specific to transportation domain. So lots of research is being done on, say, new age lubricants, where modified fluids with various additives, in many cases nano additives like carbon nanomaterials or other nanomaterials, are being added into lubricants, and then they are used for a lubrication purpose, and effects are being studied whether they are improved upon the existing lubricant or not. or some of them are totally new lubricants are designed, like solid lubricants. We all know that graphite or graphitic carbon has a lubricant properties. Similar kind of stacked materials which are say barium nitride or molybdenum sulfide are designed, and they are used for as a solid lubricant. Based on composite materials, they can be, their layers are exfoliated by adding certain types of materials, and these are the new age lubricants which are coming into a market. And similarly, fuels and fuel additives are also being researched, like new fuels um, are being proposed, or the additives are being proposed which will improve the fuel properties, their efficiency or their combustion profile, like what they are emitting the gases, whether they are getting controlled, reduction in toxic gases emission is happening or not. And those type of additives are being encouraged, and that is driving. Similarly, it has a big impact on environment also, and if fuel efficiency is improved, it has a very high impact on fuel economy also, like the economy also. So these are areas where new age materials are coming up. New packaging materials are also coming, which are light and robust, highly protective against the environment. At the same time, they are bio-friendly or recyclable. And similarly, in safety and security also, which will a little bit we will cover in national security part, and signaling and sensing and communication also, the new age materials are coming. Similarly, a sector called security and defense. It is a very important sector. It is a very vast area because it encompasses lots of inputs from interdisciplinary domains. It constitutes mainly propellants, because you want to throw projectiles, missiles or rockets to a far distance. So we need propellants. Materials for weapons we need, um, um, which constitute weapon, like the casing of weapons and all. We need steeled material, which are normally nowadays are made up of composites. And then there are inherently steeled materials. Some of the research is being done on already. A metal casing can be made steeled by spraying or coating certain type of composites. So these steeled material, bulletproof materials, like certain polymers or certain like Kevlar was made. Then there is a, so these type of materials are going to provide you bulletproof properties, so they can absorb the impact of bullet. There was about 5-6 years ago, I was attending a seminar where a researcher had proposed, they had created a bulletproof material based on viscosity change. So when impact of bullet occurs on that material, a jacket containing that material, a localized viscosity will rise so high on that impact point that the impact of bullet will be absorbed by that localized viscosity rise. So that will be a kind of very good bulletproof material they proposed. I don't know whether they have come into market or not yet, but research is going on. So what we are talking about, not everything is coming into market as a product, but research is going on in those directions. These are the areas where new age materials research is going on. Sensor for guidance and early warning. This is also a very important area for this sector which we are discussing, security and defense. Sensors for explosives, where explosives are hidden and all. You need to find out, you need to sense early without contact. Very quickly you need to sense. So those type of sensors are being researched. And then explosives, obviously explosives are also needed, because you need ammunition to blow your enemy or the targets which you want to say, terrorists or whatever. So you need explosives and delivery systems for explosives, but at the same time you need sensors for explosives also, to save yourself from others. This one, materials for communication and remote sensing are also part of this national security and defense. So we know that solid propellants composite materials for casing of armaments or kind of weapons like tanks, aircrafts, guns. Polymer composite based bulletproof materials are being researched. Sensors for radar array, like new sensors are being prepared for radar array to make them more efficient, more I mean, like their ranges can be extended, accuracy can be improved. So electro-optical signaling and guidance for weaponing, that is also like laser guided bombs are being used. So now you use a kind of electro-optical signal to guide your weapon to for a particular target. So those type of material, like for electro-optical signaling, for laser, you need a special material, or and then it can be fitted into device, and then it can be delivered. Sensors for explosive detection, materials for explosives are being researched. So this is the area where a very good novel material research is being is happening, and new materials are coming. Some of them we might read about them in a literature where because many of these things which are being done are not always published, because some of the national security and defense matters are of a kind of confidentiality. So another area is food and agriculture, where you need kind of Rio modifiers, micro and nano nutrient delivery systems are being researched or being created. Encapsulated seeds and fertilizers, materials aiding irrigation is also needed. Like we are irrigating a very large area of land with limited resource of water, and in those cases we need a maximum water retention in land. It should not get evaporated very quickly. We need to conserve the water. So it should not have a kind of lateral seepage or of water when it is being transported. So materials which are creating the irrigated area insulated from water seepage by creating a hydrophobic layer or kind of the, so those things are also being researched or prepared. Green pesticides and insecticides for in the field of agriculture, where uh, very toxic chemicals are being used. Some of them are very um, highly stable. They cannot get destroyed very quickly. So green pesticides which are like easily degradable with time, and they may not be causing damages to the mankind and kettles. Those type of materials are being made. Some of them are made from the plant and then vegetable or animal sources, and then they made into a kind of formulation which can serve for insect repellent. We tried for an insect repellent from neem tree oil, which is not very highly miscible in water. So we created a emulsion. But for emulsion also, we had to use some kind of certain surfactant. So most of the surfactants are of chemical nature. So we decided to use we call it Rita or Aritha. That saponin comes from Aritha. So we use saponin as a surfactant to emulsify the neem oil into water, and that formulation was insect repellent. It was not insecticide. So it was repelling cotton mealybug for 15 days. Then again you have to spray it. So there are certain practical problems, but still green pesticides or green insecticide, green insect repellents are being researched and being made, and some of them are already in market. People are using it. And then there is a class of compounds which are preservatives or oxidation preventers. They prevent oxidation. Like we know that we are using these cooking oils for multiple times. They get very quickly oxidized if you reach to their boiling temperature and then cool down. A very large part of that oil gets oxidized, and that oxidized oil is not very good for health. So if we add a certain kind of antioxidants prior to that, and if those antioxidants has to be of certain I mean they have to be safe for consumption. They should not be toxic to humans, and all those criteria are there. But if it is added, then they can delay the oxidation of oil, or rancification of oil can be delayed, and those kind of materials are also being prepared. Then again, for this class, biodegradable packaging materials is also, it comes under packaging class, but for food and agriculture you need a kind of biodegradable packaging material. In case of packaging, always biodegradability is not going to be very helpful, because in many cases in our country, the hot, humid, wet conditions, you get your biodegradable materials are not very stable. But research is going on to blend it with certain type of polymers and all, to make it kind of more robust, at the same time again biodegradable. So we were trying to synthesize a material which was containing titania nanoparticles inside, and in a film of a polymer. And if it is exposed to sunlight, then it will start degrading, otherwise it won't. So that was the idea, and we could do it. We irradiated it, I mean, we made a film with titanium nanoparticles, and then we irradiated at a particular wavelength under UV light. It got degraded. But we know that in practicality, packaging material will be exposed to sunlight, which contains a certain portion of UV radiation. So many times we have an intention to create a very good material, but not necessarily it's going to be the best material, or it is going to solve the problem fully. So but still research is going on. This is what research is about, that you have to keep on trying, improving upon the what others have done, or what you have done last time. You improve upon that, then you can at some point of time you achieve what you want. So we know that in food colloids, there are lots of blend materials for gelling and all. So these are rheomodifiers. They are used for nowadays this type of food preparations, where gels are very highly used. Some of the nanomaterials and micromaterials are used for nutrient delivery. Encapsulation of seeds and fertilizer is being done. Like I have seen, I have worked with a couple of companies who are doing this, even for fertilizers, because when encapsulation with certain type of biopolymers, which are again degradable, occurs, then fertilizer granules get protected from the and they get kind of diffusion based slow release. So less fertilizer is required for and similarly seeds are also encapsulated to prevent them getting going bad with time. So those type of areas are seeing new materials or new age materials coming into applications. Now we move to, this is a very huge area: medicine, drug discovery, healthcare, drug delivery. In this, new age materials are coming like anything, because this is the area where large amount of funding and focus is there, and it is affordable, because human health. So we know that we will spend, or people have a tendency to spend for health, like they will spend for health. So people know that research in this area, particularly medicine, drug delivery, or healthcare, is going to be rewarding. So lots of novel drugs with novel drug delivery systems are coming, where new age materials are used, like core cell nanoparticles, and for targeted drug delivery, or photodynamic drug delivery systems. When you irradiate these materials with a particular wavelength of light, then only they will open up and release the drug at a particular area. Implants with advanced coatings, which are loaded with a special type of drug or collagen, and so we were working with an implant which was coated with a kind of a pro drug and a collagen tissue initiator, or it will create a binding with collagen very effectively. So those type of implants are coming. Then materials for improved implants and accessories, like stent material for heart, those stents, improvement in their material properties, like you add a certain type of additives to improve upon their properties and all these happening. Sensors for easy and early detection. Now you see that we have a sensor strip for almost lot of tests like diabetes, other things, hemoglobin testing very quickly. Nowadays, after COVID, we have a strip-based test for COVID also. So those type of early detection and easy detection systems, sensor based, is also coming. In that also we utilize lots of principles of material science, and diagnostic materials and tools are coming. I was working on one French group. We were planning to propose a project on nanotheranostics, where you have nanotherapeutics as well diagnostics together. So you have a nano drug delivery system which will deliver a drug, and also it will give you a diagnostic. So they is coupled with certain kind of sensing materials which are say fluorescence active or pH active, and then they will go to the targeted site, open up, and then when accumulation takes place, we get a signal from fluorescence. So it is giving you a drug delivery as well as diagnostic in a single. So those type of material, targeted drug delivery with control release, implant with prodrugs and collagen synthesis coatings are already embedded on it, and when it is implanted, it will be or it will be adapted in your body very quickly, and it will create tissues of around the implant, so that it will behave like actual bone. So and stands and such materials are also being improved by sensor for glucose are there, certain hormones are there, certain enzymes are also there for sensors, and they will tell about your health condition very quickly. So these are the new age materials which are being researched or which are coming into market. Another area is aerospace. This is a very highly interdisciplinary sector, where inputs from all the areas are coming into that. Main materials which are useful in this area is propellants. We know that propellants, solid propellants for rockets and all are being researched. Composite materials for high thermal resistance, because these ceramic type materials which are used as tiles on these vehicles, space vehicles, and remote sensing and signaling as well as communication. In that area also lots of new materials are being designed and used, sorry. And oxygen generation or oxygen generator and storage. Now we know that due to COVID we required oxygen here, to each bed, but normally oxygen generation and storage is required for space shuttles or space voyages. And because we require oxygen to breathe, and when we are on a space mission, or humans are on a space mission, oxygen is not going to be readily available. So oxygen generators, a kind of portable small scale yet efficient oxygen generator, and storage devices or storage materials are needed. And similarly, energy generation and conservation units or materials are also needed, because when you have a space vehicle, you need energy to drive it, and if energy is generated, then there is a need to conserve it. So those type of materials, solar panels and all, are already there, but they are being implemented widely in aerospace industry, and some of the materials from aerospace industry coming into the general purpose market. But research is being done or was done for aerospace industry specifically, then those materials are slowly trickling down to the general purpose markets in recent time. So this is the very highly specific or specialized area where lots of new age materials or novel materials are being developed. Another huge sector where lots of emphasis nowadays is going on is energy and environment. Energy conservation and storage again is repeated here. materials for renewable energy or sources for energy are being researched. Catalysts for degradation of pollutants in environment segment. There are certain persistent pollutants which needs to be degraded for the betterment of environment, particularly water bodies and soil. There are catalysts. Catalysts are being designed. Photo degradation processes are being made. Green fuels are being designed. Green fuels means they are not going to evolve toxic or harmful gases, but in many cases they end up evolving H2O or nitrogen, ammonia, those type of things, or hydrogen, and these are the green fuels. There are research is going on batteries and rechargeable batteries, mainly storage devices basically, and or energy storage devices or devices which convert chemical energy into electrical energy. So lots of research, like new electrodes are being designed, electrolyte materials are being designed which are very small yet transport a large mobility of ions or large mobility of current. So those type of materials are being designed. CO2 capture and utilization, it is a very big field. I You can see I have tried to cover just topics. I am not going into, because each topic can have a single lecture on it, because CO2 capture and utilization is a huge area, and very it is being done in throughout the world in a very large scale. So there are lots of adsorbent materials which are physically or chemically adsorbing CO2, and then converting it into a utilizable, say, chemicals. Say methane is made or formaldehyde is made, methanol and ethanols are made. So these reactions, like, they are kind of a catalytic adsorbent materials which adsorb also, as well as convert it into a kind of useful chemical. So the CO2 capture and storage, or CO2 capture and utilization, both fields are very important and very highly being studied, investigated very highly. Sensors for hazardous materials, like we have NOx sensors, carbon monoxide sensors. So these hazardous materials which are hazardous for environment or human or animals, they need to be sensed very quickly in a very small quantities, parts per million or parts per billion, and then it needs to be and then certain recyclable materials, like materials which are being used for, say, creating packaging or say furniture, all other things, building construction material, they have to be recyclable or repurposing. Like a material, suppose I am making a chair out of polypropylene or plastic or um, other materials, but if it is not recyclable, then it needs to be repurposed means more melt it, mix it with say concrete, or mix it with grit and coal tar, and make it a kind of road construction material. So those type of repurposing of material is also happening on in the field of energy and environment. So this is a very huge sector, closely aided by physics, chemistry, biotechnology. All prominent field of sciences are contributing towards the research in energy and environment for new age materials. So, yeah. Now the area is advanced materials and textiles. It is we know that it is a kind of composites, nanofibers, polymers, synthetic and natural. There is a blending of many times synthetic and natural. Then adsorbent materials, nanoporous materials, catalysts, materials for electric and electronic applications, all come into advanced materials and textiles. Mainly textiles create a kind of fibers, yarns. Polymers are very widely used in field of textile. Nowadays, lots of nanofibers are coming. Some of you might have seen there is a fabric which is called I mean, it's like advertisement you might have seen in TV, where You are drinking a say, or you are eating a sauce, and you accidentally spill it on your blazer, and you can just wipe it off with tissue, or use a wet tissue and remove it. So these are hydrophobic material or hydrophobic nanofibers coated on your textile material, and from the interior it is just a simple cotton or a fabric which is hydrophilic, which absorbs your sweating and perspiration and all. So those type of smart materials, kind of a two-layer or blended materials, are being made for textiles. Lots of different textile. Geotextile is a totally a different area, a vast area, which is being developed nowadays, where a textile based materials, kind of mainly they are reinforced materials, reinforced plastics that they are calling it, are being used for geotechnological applications, particularly road construction or building construction, where they are used to prevent it sliding or dislodging of a heavy structure from the bases and all, to prevent landslides in large areas where geotextile nets are used. We see the sheds of FRP, fiber reinforced plastics, are used for shading purpose in gardens and home and all. So all these are kind of composite materials based on fibers and polymers and all. And fibers are essentially from textile, and these materials are used for various applications. Catalysts are also falling into advanced materials. Catalysts can be of various applications. Normally, they catalyze the rate of reactions. If it is aided by light, then they are photocatalyst. Many photocatalytical applications are there. Other than that, also oxidative catalysts, acid catalysts, solid acid catalysts, heterogeneous catalysts are being used, and these materials are very advanced materials. They have certain properties for adsorption. They have very high surface area. They provide sites for reactions to take place. Then there are materials for electric and electronic applications. So these are the very areas where new age materials are coming up. And this is a very interdisciplinary area where contribution from the many other sectors, many other fields is required or is happening to drive this. Another area is information technology, where you need signaling devices, receivers and transponders, optical fibers, which are ensuring the fast communications now, which we have, waveguides, and then we have light emitting diodes. These are LEDs, for especially LEDs are for screens. So most of the IT devices or IoT devices which we use, like tablets, telephone, TVs and all, require nowadays now running on light emitting diodes. So OLEDs are coming, lots of new technologies are coming into it. You see they are getting thinner and thinner. Comprising more and more pixels or higher resolutions, more and more vivid colors and contrast ratios are coming. So a good amount of research is being done on display devices sorry, based on light emitting diodes. And then there is an area is called physical data storage materials. Like we have CDs, DVDs, and then hard disk and solid state drives. So those where you want to the data which is used for digital purposes for our computers and all, whatever data being generated is stored in materials. So those materials need to be made, like a storage material needs to be made, whether it is working based on magnetism or other principle, but those storage materials are coming. So where you can store an information in form of the data is stored in form of certain electrical signals or magnetic modulations. So these type of physical data storage materials are a part of information technology sector. and they are also being researched, because we see that portable or miniaturization of data storage devices is happening. Previously, hard disk used to be very large and yet very less capacity. Now you see 1-2 terabyte or even higher size hard disk, smaller than your pen drive, or in that size you are getting. So those data storage materials are being efficient, and newer materials are coming, newer technologies are coming into that. Another area is mechanical engineering and robotics. Basically, machines and tools and gadgets, automobiles, all this falling into this area, where novel materials and composites are being used to create their bodies with lesser weight and higher robustness. Is one of the, or higher mechanical strength is one of the idea. Then lots of research we have seen already in lubricants is going on, coatings and films also, like to create to reduce the abrasion resistance on the materials, coatings and films, to give a certain type of feel. Also coatings and films are being studied, and sensors and signaling devices also. uh, Another area is biotechnology. It is again a huge area, and nowadays due to this COVID situation, we have seen it is a very important area. Apart from, say, medical healthcare, biotechnology is driving the medical and healthcare. So various materials, like say I want to create a bio based material in a large quantity. I need to have a bioreactors. So materials for bioreactors, compact bioreactors need to be created. So porous materials which can house millions of bacteria in a small area and provide a conducive environment to grow. So you need to design such material. We were contacted by a company who had a DBT startup project for stem cell research, and they were creating a bioreactors for stem cells. And then they wanted to create a porous material from zirconia, cerium, or polyester, which will be housing these cells, and those cells will be growing into that, and then cells will be washed out or taken away, extracted, and then this material will be reused. They will wash this material again, it will be put into. So those type of materials, they came to us, my center, for wettability testing, because they wanted it to be wettable. And since it was a polyester, it was not wettable, it was hydrophobic. So they wanted to convert it to hydrophilic, and they did plasma treatment on it, and it was successful. They made it wettable. So those type of research is going on for materials for bioreactors and all. Engineered viruses and microbes, there are specifically designed viruses and microbes, and that type of research is going on. They can be some of the, they call it like a good viruses, or they designed engine virus, and then it will go and do certain purpose, just like drug molecule is designed and do the treatment. So, and by the way, nowadays evidences are coming that even COVID virus is engineered. So engineered viruses and microbes is happening in biotechnology field, and they can be called materials. Of course, they fall into class of materials. Vaccines, yes, vaccines are being designed, and they are also a kind of complex materials, a mixture of many materials. And drug and enzyme delivery. Now, drug delivery is common, but enzyme delivery is also important. Enzyme immobilization or enzyme delivery, and certain biotechnology processes depend on enzyme. And many processes now, from the, say, pure chemical reaction to biotech processes, transformation is taking place. And for biotech process to be very successful and efficient, enzymes are needed. Most of the time biotech processes are driven by enzymes, and enzymes produced by microbes. But in many cases they use pure enzymes, extracted enzymes immobilized on certain carriers, and then they use for this biotechnology processes. So those, for those, their carrier molecules or host molecules are being designed. They need to be porous, they need to be protective, a kind of coating should be created, and then they release it. So those type of materials are new age materials, we call it novel materials. So I would end my talk here. I have just given a brief overview of what type of novel materials are being developed or designed or researched nowadays, and where they are applied. So I hope the subsequent lectures of luminaries, which was mentioned by Dr. Fanish, will cover the specific areas. Most of the specific areas will be covered. So that is why I did not go into very high specific significant examples and area of these things. I tried to keep it as peripheral as possible. So I hope all of you might have enjoyed it, and questions are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shukla, for having laid a foundation for what we expect to do in the days to come. This is exactly what we wanted, a ringside view and overview of all the materials that we want to go deeper into. So thank you once again. Now, I would wish that the audience or the participants to pose questions. To pose the questions orally is okay, but I still feel somehow that posting the questions on the chat box would be a better way of doing, so that the questions can be answered one by one. There will be space for 3 or 4 questions at least. So if somebody is really do not want to type, you can unmute yourself and ask the question, or if you can type the question, I'm sure Dr. Shukla will take it up one by one. Please feel free. We are open to questions. Dr. Shukla, I'm sure you are also able to see the chat box. If you can open your chat box. There's a question from Rajini Ramachandra. Can you suggest nanomaterial as adsorbent for metal removal from wastewater? From wastewater, how do you remove metals? And what material, what would you use as an adsorbent?
Somehow I cannot, I mean, I think I have to unshare my screen, then only I can see the chat box. I don't know, but I could not see the chat box, but I got the question.
Chat box not good.
Yeah, 1 minute. Yes, I can see now. Yes. So, yeah. So there are many nanomaterials which can act as an adsorbent for metal removal, particularly the materials which have certain functional groups, such as carboxylates and all, will be very good to remove nanomaterials. And that is why many, say for example, you have a very waste material, which is, say for example, fly ash. If you convert it into nanomaterial by, say, some physical operation, grinding and all, and then you introduce carboxylic acid groups onto it, it can be a very good material for removal of heavy metals from the wastewater. Another question is, I think, what about conductive polymer? Yeah. Yes, conducting polymers are also a very, I mean, it's kind of typical important class of material, particularly their application in batteries and all, because batteries are now getting smaller and smaller. You cannot physically feel the liquid electrolytes. They are normally using conducting polymers as electrolytes or with gels and all. So yes, they are very important class of material. Nowadays, people are trying to modify this conducting polymer by adding certain type of nanomaterials, say for example, metallic nanomaterials, as well as carbon nanomaterials, graphene and all, to enhance their conducting properties and all. So yes, these are very good materials. I think I missed the conducting polymer to mention.
Dr. Shukla, I have a question myself.
Yeah.
Many of us do not know much about this Shaw Shulman Center for Surface Science and Nanotechnology. what is this institute about and what do you do exactly there? What kind of work and what is its, what are the objectives of the center, Dr. Shukla?
Yeah. Our center was established in 2009, and it was that time like a very infant stage idea of a PPP partnership in this, which is now very pet or very subject of our Prime Minister. So when he was CM of Gujarat, he decided to have a kind of a new age or new technology research center hosted at university, and we had a scientist coming back from USA. He is basically an NRI, but he wanted to give back to India in form of some kind of this. So he chose our university as the host institution and decided to have a center for surface science and nanotechnology, because those areas he felt like it is upcoming or it is an emerging area where India needs to have some kind of very good research centers or very good research going on there. So, and state government helped with good amount of funds for establishing that lab into the host institution. Host institution provided infrastructure for the same, and that center came into picture. We had 10 industrial founding members from the beginning who pledged some kind of corpus funds also to drive the research, like to determine the research areas and research. So we had industrial founding members from different segments. We had UPL, Asian Paints, and Galaxy Surfactants and all. So mostly surface science and nanotechnology area we tried to cover. Those type of companies joined with us, and we I mean, that center became one of the prominent center in Gujarat to take up industry related projects mainly, because in those days most of the research work was being done by either funded by government agencies, and most of the projects were limited to government funded projects which were not directly addressing or directly related to industrial problems. So that we tried to change scenario, and luckily we got projects from many industries on different areas, clay modification for bentonite, kaolinite. We worked on drug delivery system funded by US based company, drug delivery through contact lens. So we incorporated drug into a contact lens matrix, a soft contact lens matrix, and then it got delivered in 48 hours for eye, the timolol drug. So those type of projects we took up, and we are working on still on those type of projects, industry funded mainly, and government supported projects are also there, because to sustain the students and to give them degree and all, I think we need it's better our government agency funded projects, because they sustain them full term. But in industry projects are short, they want results very quickly, so we work on that. Nowadays I am working on a project which is a ball pen tip company, and they have a problem of tips are getting blocked due to certain kind of impurities developing in their mechanism, like ball, and it is a micron size opening. So there we are working, we are looking into corrosion problems and all. So industry focused problem solving is one of the main tasks of my center. Your mic is off, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Shukla. If you scroll up, some more questions are there, 2 or 3. Maybe if you can answer them.
Fluoride related question is there. Yeah.
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 If you scroll up, or I can also read it out for you.
Yeah.
There's a question saying, can you please suggest a better way to disperse nano powder into a liquid metal, especially CNT or graphene?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, metal, if it is liquefied at very high temperature, dispersion is going to be a little bit of a problem, because dispersion of graphene and CNT into metals is a little bit challenging because of the incompatibility of the phases between the two. And to reduce that incompatibility, we can add surfactant. But for liquid metals, like which, if it is molten, then these organic surfactants are not going to survive. I mean, they are not, they will get charred and all. So in that case, it is little bit difficult to effectively disperse this CNT and graphene. But I think at elevated temperature, CNT and graphene should be dispersible directly without aided any material on it. One thing can be tried if we modify this CNT and graphene before dispersing into it, like you add a certain type of functional groups into it, it may help, but then again temperature is going to be a limiting factor there.
Yeah, Dr. Shukla, Dr. Shukla, can you hear me? Yeah. So there is another question saying
the fluoride related.
No, go ahead. No, there's one more question. Yeah. Are there any facilities on laser-based surface modification in your institution? Along with this question, you can also tell the audience saying that if your institute is open to any testing facilities for people outsiders, or if what kind of testing facilities are there, you can also combine that and question and answer to this along with this.
Yes, we do provide testing, instrumentation analytical facilities to the academies as well as industries. And as there is a common practice in India, academies do get 50% discount. So students and faculties alike, they get, if it is coming from university or a government funded institution, it is discounted. But for industries, there is a higher charge. But we do not have a facility for laser-based modification on the materials. We have a XRD particle size analyzer, we have a gas chromatograph, we have thermal analyzers, we have rheometer also for powders and gels and all. So those, and we have 3 types of surface tensiometers for surface science applications or surface science studies. We have contact angle goniometer also for a surface studies, and we have atomic force microscope. So those type of, I can share I mean, you can go to the link of my center where Shah Sulman Center, if you give, you will get the instrumentation facility related.
Dr. Shukla, I'm sure you can see the chat box yourself. If there is there are more questions, but if you can answer one or two out of them.
Yeah, so I was checking, like one is related to fluoride, removal of fluoride. Yes, this is a very pertinent problem in India. I was checking about this Jal Jeevan Mission, and we have around more than 1 lakh villages in total in India, which has a problem of fluoride in their water. So this is we are trying to create a special site on a nanomaterial to remove fluoride. And if you go into literature, there are fluoride specific or fluoride binding sites. If you introduce or anchor those sites onto a nanomaterial, even silica nanoparticle or any other metal oxide nanoparticle, say for example, titanium, then it can remove fluoride from the water. And then we can test before and after, or you can have a certain kind of chromophore attached to that site. So when binding occurs, you can see the change in color. And those type of materials are being made. Even my guide, Dr. Amitava Das group had made fluoride sensor in water, but it is not for removal of fluoride, but it senses, like you in a glass of water, if there any ppm level fluoride or not, you can sense it. So those sensors are kind of giving optical signal when fluoride is bound. So you create a material where fluoride is bound, and then you use a kind of chromophore to signal it. And then you can have a kind of a practical usable material for fluoride removal.
We have another 5 minutes.
Many questions are coming. I am not.
Yeah. So maybe another 4 or 5 minutes if you can answer.
Yeah, but another is, I think, how nanoparticles act differently than microparticles. Yes, because nanoparticles have a very large surface area. So basically, surface forces are dominant or whatever. And at the same time, if you go a very smaller size, like the size is smaller than the width of the wavelength or width of the incident rays, like visible light wavelength, then you can have a unique optical properties for nanoparticle, which is not possible for microparticle. For example, silver microparticles are going to look silver-like silvery shining particles. But when you convert it into nano size, like around less than 50 nanometer or less than 100 nanometer, they start showing a kind of yellowish or brownish color. So that color is coming because they reached into a nano scale range where optical wavelength, they are smaller than optical wavelength. So that is why they are showing some kind of novel optical properties. At the same time, they have physical properties modulation also because of size. So size dependent lots of properties get changed. And that is one of the main reason why people are going into. I think attendance links are coming, but
in the chat box, there are a couple of more questions. If you can answer the last question.
Yeah. How to test the conductance?
You can choose.
Lots of questions are coming.
Yeah, any question you choose, sir. I should leave it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a question about reinforced material and matrix interface, how to know that bonding is taking place. Yeah, that is, I mean, it's like we can we can create a material where we know that bonding might take place. Then most of this type of chemistry is called self-assembled processes, where you know that you have a, say, suppose, for example, COH group, then metal will go and bind with that, or you have created a thiol group, then silver or platinum or gold bind with that. So these are called self-assembly principles by the hydrogen bonding network or other things. So in those cases, not all the time you have a bonding, you can check with bonding. But in some cases, yes, Raman and other techniques will give you idea about bonding. XPS is also very good technique when you have a kind of material which is embedded in the matrix. If it is bound to a certain group, you know when it is if it is just free embedment or it is a binding, you can know the difference in binding and from the binding energy in XPS. Raman spectroscopy also would give us idea about this kind of binding taking place. I think some of
yes, Dr. Shukla, I think I'm sure the audience will go into the website of.
All of questions I think are missed, but they are. I mean, they scrolled back way too up, so I'm. Yeah.
Yeah, if you feel like answering one more question, you could do. I could end it.
I have seen one. We have a facility to study the fracture of GFRP.
Yes.
In my laboratory, our civil engineering department, they have certain facilities to study the fractures in concrete structures. So maybe GFRP, I don't know, I have to inquire to them because this is going to be in a polymer. So they might have this facility.
Yeah, Dr. Shukla, I'm sure, I mean, if any of our audience participants want to exchange a mail with you or something, or if possible, if you can, take that into
I'm putting my email ID on the chat box. So anyone who wishes to connect can use this. It was my mistake that I couldn't put it on my lecture slide, title slide. It would have been better. but I am going to share with the participants the PDF of this
Presentation.
PowerPoint presentation, which was so.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Shukla, on behalf of the Atal, learning initiative, on behalf of the institution of MS Ramesh of Technology, on behalf of our own department, mechanical, and also on behalf of all the participants, I really thank you wholeheartedly for giving us a fine start with for this FDP, and thank you very much for your time and for agreeing to speak to us at such a short notice. And thank you once again, sir. Have a good day. And
thank you very much for providing me this opportunity to be in, as equated with sirs like Sabu Thomas and all, whom during my student days, whom we got inspired from. So thank you, sir, for this opportunity.
Thank you.